What's your reaction to the action that the NCAA took today? Surprised? Excited?
I'm very glad that California's leadership is a game changer once again, and the NC2A sort of setting up the path for students getting the right to their student athletes, getting the right to their name, image, and likeness is exactly why my colleague Senator Bradford and I introduced SB 206, because everyone else was making money from this multi-billion-dollar college sport industry except the very talent that was generating the wealth, the student athletes.
Did you think that the legislature passing and the governor signing your legislation, SB 206, would result in such a quick response from the NCAA? Because all the way through this process, there's been hovering over this debate in the legislative process the concern that the NCAA was pushing back, they might file suit. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm really glad that the NC2A has taken this action and that it really shows promise, but I'm especially pleased that the California legislature and Governor Newsom supported the bill unequivocally, and that message across the country, I mean, we created a tidal wave because there's now 16 states, U.S. Congress, and the U.S. Senate all looking at bills pretty much analogous to California. So I think it's right for the NC2A to respond because, you know, it's not necessarily best to have different rules everywhere. And if the NC2A does the right thing, which it appears they are inclined to, we'll see, the devil's in the details, then it'll be a level playing field for everybody, and that will be good.
What are your thoughts on Mark Emmert, the president of the NCAA, commenting the comments saying that they are okay with student athletes monetizing social media or training other athletes, but not yet getting endorsement deals? What do you think of that?
Well, I think California, in our action, we were very clear. We do not want arbitrary limitations. And the NC2A's own statement says that they feel that the student athlete's rights should be analogous to the rights every other student has. And if you look at every other student has no limitation other than what's ever in law. They have no limitation on being able to generate income from their talents and skills. And so we do not want to see any kind of arbitrary limitation on a student athlete. Now, interestingly, our own bill, SB 206, has some provisions that limit the student's ability to have, say, a contract or an endorsement deal that is in conflict with the college's endorsement deals, because clearly the colleges have a legitimate right to generate revenue for their sports programs. So if the NC2A is thinking about rules that might, protect the ability for the college to generate revenue that don't arbitrarily limit the student's ability to, then we probably would be open to them. But I'm curious about what they're going to mean about the collegiate purpose, because their statement says whatever rules they come up with must be consistent with the collegiate purpose. And of course, here in California, we know that at every college, you have the right to your name, image, and likeness, except when you're a student athlete and you sign the NC2A's waiver. So we feel that that unlimited right is part of the collegiate purpose. So we will see what they come up with. And again, if it's reasonable and not arbitrary, there will be openness, but we'll be monitoring it.
Well, your answer brings up a good point. What role, what position does this put the colleges in now in terms of their relationship with the athletes? Are the colleges free now to strike a deal with Nike or with some other brand, some other endorsement deal on behalf of or with the student? How is this going to work moving forward, do you
think? The colleges right now already have the right to get deals with media for the showcasing of games and such or athletic events. They also have the right to get endorsement deals or contracts with, say, athletic equipment or other type of sponsors. My understanding, if I have the right to my name, image, and likeness, the college cannot enter into a deal that is specifically involving me without my involvement and my agreement and my acquiescence to whatever share that I would get.
You crafted this bill, did you not, with the anticipation or the understanding that it was going to take a while for the NCAA to meet you at least halfway on this, right? I mean, your start date isn't a couple of years until a couple of years away, right?
Well, I opened with that I'm very pleased, but yes, I was surprised because if we look at the history, the NC2A has, multiple times either set up some kind of a commission or indicated that they are looking at this question, that they're going to give broader rights to athletes. And over the years, they never have. So I think that California's action really was a game changer. But of course, when we think about why did California even act? I mean, overwhelmingly, the polls show that the public is greatly on the side of allowing athletes to have these rights and the athletes to share some part of the pie around this multi-billion-dollar industry. But additionally, we've talking decades of activity by civil rights leaders and by black athletes around the very clear, very clear issue of the exploitation of black athletes. Because still to this day, when we look at the athletics that generate the most income, basketball, football, dominated by black student athletes, and far more in terms of the proportion to the rest of the student body. And yet they were, other than a scholarship, denied any type of ability to generate any revenue or income for themselves. So I think that I wish that the NC2A could have responded to that very legitimate civil rights and exploitation issue, and that they would have done it on their own. But as they didn't, I'm very pleased that they are now, and that California seems to have given them the push that they needed.
Talk about, just as a final question, speak to the reaction that you're getting from the sports community, from the athletes, from all around the country and the state to the decision today, and just the impact that your bill's having. Talk about that.
Well, the athletes are thrilled. I got a text today from Caitlin Ohashi, the brilliant former UCLA gymnast, where she was like, "Yay, we did it." So that was great. And you look at a person like Caitlin, if you think about what her value, her economic, the ability to generate revenue when she was at UCLA doing those perfect 10 floor routines compared to now there's really not much opportunity to be a pro as a gymnast. I mean, maybe she could be a coach, but if you're not in the Olympics and there's only a handful of US women that even get in the Olympics, so then what happens to you? So it's possible that really the peak of her ability to generate any type of income from herself was at that time when she was a college student, and yet she was denied the ability to do that. So this is really a game changer. But the other thing I wanted to add is that, it's, I suppose, ironic that both the colleges and the NC2A, while we were debating SB 206, was sort of fire and brimstone, it's going to be doomsday, this is going to destroy college athletics, various other threats and such. And yet today the NC2A took what I think is the right action, which is opening the door to a national rule around student athletes' rights to their name, image, and likeness. And I hope that they continue in this direction and that they do it in a way that makes sense and really does give athletes this right, and we'll be monitoring to help make sure they do. So one of the things that we've been thinking about is setting up a select committee where Senator Bradford, myself, some other members, where we could both have the ability to have some hearings as we monitor what the NC2A, how they proceed. I mean, one of the things the NC2A said in their interviews is that they may leave this up to each of the divisions. So perhaps Pac-12 would have their own set of rules. It's not clear yet how they want to proceed. But if we had a select committee here in the Capitol, we would be able to monitor it. And then if we needed to adjust our own legislation, we would be able to do so. Or we'd be able to continue to put pressure on the NC2A to do the right thing as we feel what would be the right thing.